Hello, this is lesson 0.8 in the series of rock bottom basics playing guitar, the things they forget to tell you. This lesson's about chords mostly, why they can sound bad, causes and fixes, cures, and types of chords and why they are used in certain circumstances. You've probably already by now learned some basic chords like the G chord, the C chord, D, A minor maybe. But there are things called bar chords which take those shapes and move them up the fretboard, which moves them up half tones, whole tones, 2 tones, 3 tones, and changes what chord they are. So an E moved up half a tone becomes an F. But you see that what I'm doing is I'm simulating either a capo or the nut itself to put in the foundations of the chord, and then I'm playing the same shape. So that's E moved up and then a bar. And these are called bar chords. G, and that's just one shape. These are basically the chords that electric guitarists play in rock, in reggae, in all genres. Genres. Okay, I think that's a French word. At some point you will want to learn bar chords as well as the so-called open chords played down here. When you do, you may find that some of them, especially as you get higher up on the fretboard, don't sound so good anymore. They sound a bit sour, a bit discordant, and there may be several reasons for this, all to do with the guitar itself and or the strings. So the first one will be intonation. I talked before about the fact that the position of the bridge, or the bridge saddle in the case of an acoustic, is critical, and that you must have it in the right position so as to get the same note. On the thinnest string this is open and at the 12th fret. And if that's not the case, then the intonation is faulty. Easy to fix on an electric guitar, which have screws to crank the bridge positions forward and back until you get it absolutely right. Not quite so easy on an acoustic guitar. If it's terrible, if it's terribly bad, then the bridge will have to be taken off with a hot palette knife and re-glued in the right position. If it's not so terrible, then the bridge saddle can be filed at the front or back a little bit to compensate. So that's one reason that as you move up the fretboard, slight errors in intonation will throw the notes off a bit. Another one is high action. You may find that you're able to cope with strings which are far off the fretboard because you have strong fingers, but as you actually push those strings down, you're tightening them up. So if the action is too high, too far off the fretboard, then you will be making those notes sharp by pressing down on them, and once again the chord will sound wrong and sour. High action is one thing. Another thing is underbow in the neck. So the neck can be kind of shaped like this. That can be straightened out if your guitar has a truss rod. This one doesn't. But a truss rod is designed, you usually adjust it here with a wrench down the hole, or at the other end with some kind of wrench. It's designed to straighten necks in this direction or that direction. So a lot of underbow again will cause you to be pressing the strings down too far and stretching them, making the notes sharp. Fixable maybe, depending on your guitar. And the other thing, I've come across this actually twice now in my life, where somebody's had strings that have got corroded, have got old and black, and they've cleaned them with wire wool or some other kind of rust polisher. That actually takes material away from the strings, and so they'll be slightly off tune everywhere. So you can't really do that. You have to throw them away and get a new set of shiny strings. Incidentally, never use wire wool around electric guitars because the pickups by definition work with magnetism, and the wire wool will end up in the works. I'll talk later about using distortion and so on with an electric guitar for effects and for a certain atmosphere and for sustain and things like that. That's never really done with open chords, so that's probably what will spur you on to learning the bar chords, like this one's a D, this one's a C, this one's a G, this one's an A. In rock and roll, you'll find that most chords are major chords. They're the most powerful sounding. But these chords, for any one key, let's say you're going to play a song in the key of G, so here's G. Now, you might think that all the rest of the chords in a song in the key of G will be chords constructed from the scale of G major. And they are in classical music and other types of music, but in rock they're not. They're altered to be the majors to give you the more powerful and driving sound. So they're non-diatonic. There's a fancy word for you. General advice: when the time comes when you can go to jam sessions and other ways of playing with other people, to some extent it's possible to do it on Zoom and other softwares, but I'm thinking that towards the end of summer we will actually start to be able to go out and play alongside other musicians. So just a word about saxophonists. It's important to be friendly to saxophonists, whatever your natural feelings are, because you might need them to help you carry in the amplifiers and speakers and guitar cases. So, advice. Drummers are nice. In general, drummers are great when they turn up. So, watch out. Sunglasses. I've mentioned sunglasses in previous lessons. There's a time for wearing them and a time for not. Having said that, in rock and roll most chords used are major chords. There are of course exceptions, and very often a seventh chord is used to lead you into a resolution to another chord. And minor chords are used in many famous songs. Minor chords, people would say, sound a bit sad or mournful or kind of leaving you hanging a little bit, but there are also some other chords, different kinds of chords, which leave you with different kinds of feelings in combination with other chords before and after them. Chords like this one, which I would call a creepy chord. So weird chords like that one, I'm sure used in the Twin Peaks TV series. I can't remember the name of that particular shape I was playing, but we can return to those later, or actually probably never. And then there are jazz chords, for instance. So, watch out.